Yashodanandana Brajajanarandana Yashodanandana Brajajanarandana Yamunatira Vanantari Yamunatira Vanantari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Brajajanarandana Yashodanandana Brajajanarandana Yamunatira Vanantari Yamunatira Vanantari Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Bolo Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Hello. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radha, Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radha, Jaya Radha Kunda Bihari Radha Kunda Bihari Radhe, Radha Kunda Bihari Radha, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Gaura Simanandi. Swayam Vishnupada Paramahamsa Privratagachajasto Tadasatya Sri Simar, His Divine Grace, Shirabai Charanaravinda Bhaktivinoda Swami, Sri Prabhupada ki, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki, ISKCON BBT, Founder Acharyas Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada ki, Namacharya Sri Haridas Thakur ki, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki, Harinam Sankirtan ki, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Jainitai Gauda Pimanandi, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Sri Guru, to Sri Gauranga, all glories to Sri Prabhupada. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Sarakaya Taksharimiritam Jain Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Juta Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavam Sya Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Ragunatam Vitam Tvam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sabhadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Sri Visakan Vitam Sya Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Narayanam Namaskritya Dharam Chaiva Narotamam Devim Sarasatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayat. Before reciting this Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, let us first offer our respectful obeisances unto Narayana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Nara, Narayan Rishi, the supremmost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Sri Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta Prayesha Badreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatu Tamashloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. By regularly hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering service unto the pure devotee, all that is troublesome within the heart becomes destroyed practically to nil, and loving devotional service unto the Supreme Lord, who is praised with transcendental songs, becomes established as an irrevocable fact. Idam Bhagavatam Nama Puranam Brahmasamitam Uttama Shloka Charitam Sakara Bhagavan Rishi Nishreyasaya Lokasya Dhanyam Swasya Namaha. This Srimad Bhagavatam, known as the Grantaraj, the king of all Vedic literatures, is the literary incarnation of God. It is compiled by the incarnation of God, Sri Vyasadeva. It is meant for the ultimate good of all people. It is all successful, all blissful, and all perfect. Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita Gadadhara, Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Sarabhyai Namaha. Om Sarabhyai Namaha. Om Sarabhyai Namaha. Mukam karoti vasalam pangum langayate girim yatkripat maham bandhe Sri Gurum Dinataranam yatkripat maham bandhe Sri Gurum Dinataranam. Hare Krishna. Welcome to our Bhagavatam class. Today we continue from Canto 7, Chapter 3, entitled Hiranyakashipu's Plan to Become Immortal. And today we're reading text number 13, right? Yeah. Tavasanam Dvija Gavam Paramistyam Jagatpate Bhavaya Shreyase Bhutyai Kshemaya Vijayaya Cha Tavasanam Dvijagavam Paramistyam Jagatpate Bhavaya Shreyase Bhutyai Kshemaya Vijayaya Cha Tavasanam Dvijagavam Paramistyam Jagatpate Bhavaya Shreyase Bhutyai Kshemaya Vijayaya Cha Tavasanam Dvijagavam Paramistyam Jagatpate Bhavaya Shreyase Bhutyai Kshemaya Vijayaya Cha Tavasanam Dvijagavam Paramisyam Jagatpate Tavasanam Dvijagavam Paramisyam Jagatpate Bhavaya Shreyase Bhutyai Kshemaya Vijayaya Cha. Good. Tava, your asanam, position on the throne, Dvija, of the Brahminical culture, or the Brahmanas, Gavam, of the cows, Paramistyam, supreme, Jagatpate, O Master of the whole universe, Bhavaya, for improvement, Shreyase, for the ultimate happiness, Bhutyai, for increasing the opulence, Kshemaya, for the maintenance and good fortune, Vijayaya, for the victory and increasing prestige, Cha, and translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. O Lord Brahma, your position within this universe is certainly most auspicious for everyone, especially the cows and brahmanas. Brahminical culture and the protection of cows can be increasingly glorified, and thus all kinds of material happiness, opulence, and good fortune will automatically increase. But unfortunately, if Hiranyakashipu occupies your seat, everything will be lost. Touché. Kindly repeat after me. O Lord Brahma, your position within this universe is certainly most auspicious for everyone, especially the cows and brahmanas. Brahminical culture and the protection of cows can be increasingly glorified, and thus all kinds of material happiness, opulence, and good fortune will automatically increase. But unfortunately, if Hiranyakashipu occupies your seat, everything will be lost. Purport. In this verse, the word Dvija Gavam Paramistyam indicate the most exalted position of the Brahmanas, Brahminical culture, and the cows. In Vedic culture, the welfare of the cows and the welfare of the Brahmanas are essential. Without a proper arrangement for developing Brahminical culture and protecting cows, without a proper arrangement for developing Brahminical culture and protecting cows, all the affairs of administration will go to hell. Being afraid that Hiranyakashipu would occupy the post of Brahma, all the demigods were extremely disturbed. Hiranyakashipu was a well-known demon, and the demigods knew that if demons and Rakshasas were to occupy the supreme post, Brahminical culture and protection of cows would come to an end. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 5:29, the original proprietor of everything is Lord Krishna. Bhoktaram Jagatapasam Sarvalokamaheswaram. The Lord therefore knows particularly well how to develop the material condition of the living entities within this material universe or this material world. In every universe, there is one Brahma engaged on behalf of Lord Krishna, as confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam, Tene Brahma Hridaya Adi Kavaye. The principal creator in each Brahmanda is Lord Brahma, who imparts Vedic knowledge to his disciples and sons. On every planet, the king or supreme controller must be a representative of Brahma. On every planet, the king or supreme controller must be a representative of Brahma. Therefore, if a Rakshasa or demon were situated in Brahma's post, then the entire arrangement of the universe, especially the protection of the Brahminical culture and cows, would be ruined. All the demigods anticipated this danger, and therefore they went to request Lord Brahma to take immediate steps to thwart Hiranyakashipu's plan. In the beginning of creation, Lord Brahma was attacked by two demons, Madhu and Kaitabha, but Krishna saved him. Therefore, Krishna is addressed as Madhu Kaitabha Hantri. Now again, Hiranyakashipu was trying to replace Brahma. The material world is so situated that even the position of Lord Brahma, not to speak of ordinary living entities, is sometimes in danger. Nonetheless, until the time of Hiranyakashipu, no one had tried to replace Lord Brahma. Hiranyakashipu, however, was such a great demon that he maintained this ambition. The word bhutyai means for increasing opulence, and the word shreyase refers to ultimately returning home back to Godhead. In spiritual advancement, very important sentence here. In spiritual advancement, one's material position improves at the same time that the path of liberation becomes clear and one is freed from material bondage. If one is situated in an opulent position in spiritual advancement, his opulence never decreases. Therefore, such a spiritual benediction is called bhuti or vibhuti. Krishna confirms this in Bhagavad Gita 10:41. Yad yad vibhutimat sattvam mama tejomsa tetomsha sambhavam. If a devotee advances in spiritual consciousness and thus becomes materially opulent also, his position is a special gift from the Lord. Such opulence is never to be considered material at the present, especially on this planet Earth. The influence of Lord Brahma has decreased considerably, and the representatives of Hiranyakashipu, the Rakshasas and demons, have taken charge. Therefore, there is no protection of Brahminical culture and cows, which are the basic prerequisites for all kinds of good fortune. This age is very dangerous because society is being managed by demons and Rakshasas. We didn't choose this purport. or this verse today. It's just coming in sequence here. I'll read the text translation again. O Lord Brahma, your position within this universe is certainly most auspicious for everyone, especially the cows and brahmanas. Brahminical culture and the protection of cows can be increasingly glorified, and thus all kinds of material happiness, opulence, and good fortune will automatically increase. But unfortunately, if Hiranyakashipu occupies your seat, everything will be lost. Very difficult to add to this kind of purport. Prabhupada is so... the verse itself is very clear, very strongly stated, and the purport likewise. So one of many nice points being made here is that material opulence will automatically increase, will automatically follow for those who practice spiritual life. And the so-called material opulence that is existing today is actually is very, first of all, is unnatural, and at any moment also can be lost. So this very, very important point being made here, that the natural universal arrangement for things to be managed properly, for people to be happy ultimately, is that there must be personalities like Lord Brahma and his followers, sons and disciples, coming in Guru Parampara. Lord Brahma received the Vedic knowledge, as we know, from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, and especially to protect these principles of dharma. Throughout the ages, the different manus are selected, and there comes different dynasty, the moon dynasty, the sun dynasty. The whole teaching of the Bhagavad Gita, as we know, was given to Arjuna. He was representing the Rajarshi. Evam parampara praptam imam rajarsayo vidu. This knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, which is essentially knowledge of dharma, is especially meant to be administered and protected by kshatriyas, by bona fide representatives. So here the demigods are very clearly expressing their fear and their concern that if Hiranyakashipu is successful in dethroning you, God forbid, then we're in big trouble. Then we will no longer be protected. And very clearly and specifically, as mentioned in so many other places, in the Bhagavatam, as well as the Bhagavad Gita, Brahminical culture and cows. Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmana Hitaya Cha. They got Hitaya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namaha. That verse is directly connected with this whole purport and text being given here. So Prabhupada was always very straightforward. as we can see here. He, we say, he doesn't mince his words. He uses the direct and very strong words depicting the present situation which is prevailing all over the world, where leaders of different countries are not actually following the Vedic system. They are unaware. They are ignorant of the Vedic knowledge, and therefore Brahminical culture is not protected, and therefore cows are also not protected. No one is protected, isn't it? The sign of good government, this is nicely explained in the whole pastime of Lord Ramachandra. Sign of good government is nobody has any complaints. Everyone rather glorifies the king. Which country is that happening? Everyone is complaining, isn't it? Everyone is disturbed in so many different ways. So there's a very urgent need. When we speak of Brahminical culture, we don't only speak about Brahmanas. Brahmanas are, of course, the first important persons, individuals within the Brahminical culture. But Brahmanas are meant to help create a situation where trained and qualified Kshatriyas will be there to actually protect and put into practice the principles of dharma. We were talking about this just, I think, yesterday or the day before. That is directly connected with actually training. Prabhupada, so often he explains how the special feature of the Vedic culture is training and education. Training and education. But not, any kind of training or not any kind of education, but real training, real education is teaching us the primary goal and objective of life, which is self-realization. Prabhupada quotes the verse here in the Bhagavatam, in the Bhagavad Gita rather, Bhoktaram Jagyatapasam Sarvaloka Maheswaram Suridam Sarvabhutanam Gyatvamam Shantim Richati. Shanti, peace and prosperity. Everyone is seeking after peace and prosperity, but no one knows the proper way of doing that, the proper formula. That formula is given. Prabhupada called this particular verse, this is the peace formula in the Bhagavad Gita, the peace formula. Understanding that we are not meant to be the bhoktas or the enjoyers. So there's a similar to the demigods who are very disturbed. Demigods, they're devotees. They understand about dharma, and they know that if a proper representative is not there, dharma will not be protected in so many different ways. So I think as devotees in our present situation on this planet, as nicely explained here by Prabhupada, there is devotees also, similar to the demigods here, should be concerned and are concerned but should be more concerned. It should be concerned about, okay, what to do about the situation, isn't it? And yesterday I shared one small text that I want to read this morning, which is, I don't know if some of you saw it or not. I sent it to one of our conferences. It's a very nice explanation given by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur actually, whenever we read some of his literatures, they are so deep, they are so profound, and so practical as well. This was in answer to one of many questions. This is taken from a very important book, one of many. I think, how many books did Bhaktivinoda Thakur write? I think close to 100. So many books he wrote, including poems.
Poems itself, I think, more than 600.
600?
Huge
poems, articles, yeah. I mean, that's why he is referred to as the Seventh Goswami. The Goswamis, their specialty was to write huge volumes of literatures on the science of bhakti, devotional service. And Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, because he wrote so extensively, he's referred to as the Seventh Goswami. So this is one of many questions, actually. The Sajjana Tosani is an exchange of questions and answers. Short questions and sometimes somewhat elaborate, but generally fairly short answers to the questions being asked. And so this is one of the questions here. I was looking in that book under the different chapters. So this particular chapter was a chapter on sociology. So in there, the question is as follows: by following which rules can the varnashram system in India be revived? By following which rules can the varnashram system in India be revived? And for that matter, all over the world. So the reply is as follows. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains. He gives 10 ways, 10 instructions as to how the varnashrama system can be revived.
Can you please send it to us?
Huh?
Can you please send it to us?
Well, I sent it on the Global Varnashram Mission on Telegram. That's why sometimes we have two. One is on Telegram and one is on WhatsApp. I prefer using Telegram. Don't want to give a plug here for Telegram, but yeah. So number one, this is very interesting because at the end, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur brings in the Kshatriya element. And I want to make a few comments on that as we will come to the end here. Number one, no one's caste should be ascertained simply by birth. That we know, of course. Prabhupada explained this many times. Number two, a person's caste should be determined according to the nature he develops in the association of the children and by the accumulation of knowledge. It's very important. First of all, we should understand, in the first and the second, and then in others as well, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is, quite openly speaking about caste. It's a natural, caste means a natural division of society, the 4 castes, 4 varnas. And so in this second text here, or second instruction, he mentions how it is essential or helpful that young boys grow up in the association of other young boys. In psychology, it is very important that there be this kind of natural interaction. Because it is when we interact with other individuals, we can learn about ourselves, we can learn about society, because it all has to do with relationship, isn't it? Yeah. So this second point is pointing out how the interaction amongst other children is very important, and also the cultivation of knowledge, learning, cultivation of knowledge. Number 3, at the time of ascertaining a person's caste, one should, along with that person's nature and taste, consider the caste of his parents. So the first one was that we should not determine simply based on the family or the parents, but number 3 here is mentioning that we should not neglect that also, you see. When we will determine a person's caste, along with the natural tendencies and abilities and tastes of an individual, we should consider the caste of his parents. Number 4, after a person becomes matured, in other words, when he becomes 15 years old, the family priest, the landlord, the parents, and a few selfless, educated people of the village should sit together and determine his caste. This is very, very significant, very important. That means within the age of 15, one should know one's varna should have been established. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur will give more details on this, actually. Number 5, which caste should a matured person belong to? Such a question should never arise. Rather, the question should be raised whether that matured person is qualified to retain his father's caste or not. So if one is born in the Kshatriya family, the question should not be what is your caste. The question should be, is that person at this stage of life, in his mature stage of a young boy, is he able to retain that particular caste in which he was born? No. Well, maybe in present-day villages.
The boy is already from a caste, born in a caste, having different caste, and then when he grows up, if he doesn't have the same skills or gunas, then it will be decided by the leader.
It will be decided by the elders, by those who are responsible in the village. Yeah.
And if they will decide if he is not fit into his father's caste,
That's coming. That's
casted.
No.
Okay. Yeah.
You haven't read the whole thing yet. We're just halfway through here. So, number 5 again, which caste should he belong? Should a mature person be identified with? Such a question should never arise. Rather, the question should be raised whether that matured person is qualified to retain his father's caste or not. This assumes that, we're talking about a village where dharma principles are honored and followed, and where elders are respected. Yeah. I mean, some base. Yeah. No. So then, number 6, if it is found that a person is qualified to retain his caste, then appropriate samskara or purificatory rituals should be performed. If it is seen that he is qualified for a higher caste, then his samskara should be performed accordingly. And if it is found that he is qualified for a caste lower than that of his father, then he should be given 2 more years. Bhaktivinoda is very practical. Huh?
Giving time to
Yeah, giving time. Number 7, after this additional 2 years, he should be examined again, and his caste should be ascertained. In other words, we cannot indefinitely leave somebody hanging. I mean, not knowing who he is. In other words, it's very, very, very important to put our hand when we yawn. It's very, very important. What happens when we yawn and we don't cover our mouth or do some sound, some bad spirit will come in may come in your body. Yeah, if you make sound. Yeah. How to control the voice. So this is, it means that actually in the Vedic culture, obviously varnashram is very important, and we will see as we continue here why it is important, essential to actually determine one's caste, one's varna. And it should be decided by the age of 15 and maybe another 2 years of extension here, especially if one is going to be placed at a lower level in terms of varna. Number 8, every village should have a committee consisting of landlords and the scholars to protect the rules and regulations of the society. This is like one of the most important committees in a village. A committee of elders who understand the importance of dharma, the principles of dharma, specifically this dimension of varnashrama dharma. And then the last 2 are also very, very important. The support of the king has to be taken in order to keep these activities going. The king is actually the protector of the principle of varnashrama, which is the whole purport we have read. Prabhupada explaining, elaborating. And number 10, according to one's caste, one's marriage and other activities should be carried out. Prabhupada often he would say, first is varna, then is ashram. We cannot understand what ashram we will take unless we first understand our varna. Just like Brahmana varna, all the 4 ashrams are open. Kshatriya varna, only 3 ashrams are open. Kshatriya don't take sannyas, generally. Yeah. And then Vaishya, only 2 ashrams are open. Vaishya doesn't take sannyas and may not take vanaprastha. And then Shudra, only 1 varna, which is householder life. Shudra is not qualified for brahmacharya in terms of studying. He should be brahmachari, but he generally, Shudra don't go to Gurukul because it requires a lot of austerities and a lot of studies. and also Shudra will also not, sannyas is mainly for the brahmanas. So that's why Prabhupada mentions that Matajis are not meant for sannyas. You see. So these are, very practical instructions. It means that this is some similar type of system was there, was built in traditionally, and Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who was was living like maybe 150 years back, was familiar with this, and possibly at that time also. I mean, I have not studied how the situation was 150 or 200 years ago, but definitely with the influence, modern influence began approximately 150 to 100 years ago in a very particular way, what we call modernization. So Brahminical culture, therefore, means, Srila Prabhupada in his giving us direction regarding Varnashrama college was in many ways connecting with this whole system. Because in Varnashram college training, one comes to know about Varna, and one will come to know about his particular identity. So therefore, as devotees, as Vaishnavas are also, I don't have that text here, but I believe in this same book of Sajjana Toshani, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur makes specific references to the need and importance for Vaishnavas also to follow Varnashrama. I mean, very directly. Srila Prabhupada also. Srila Prabhupada made, as I'm sure most of you have heard, he made the following statement that actually it is necessary to follow Varnashrama to become Vaishnava. To become Vaishnava, you first follow Varnashrama. And that the system of Varna and Ashrama will make it easier for you to practice spiritual life. Will make it easier for an individual to actually become pure Vaishnava. Bring my computer, actually. Any comments or questions on this? Maybe one or two of these statements I'll try to bring up by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur.
Yeah, I'm going. If we have to follow this, then we are nowhere fitting ourselves.
What is that?
If you have to follow this Sajjana Goswami,
Yeah. Yeah.
then we see ourselves nowhere fitting here. I mean, because we just become Brahmana without nobody checked us whether we are really qualified for the Brahmanas or not. We just wrote exams and we passed the exam, we became Brahmanas. Nobody checked whether we should really deserve for Brahmana or not. What is our gunas? Nobody checked us. There is no system in our institution that we just made them Brahmanas. Only one thing we are doing in our institution, that's it, Brahmana.
Well, so your point is that, in our present context or situation, we are we have a situation where so many individuals have been given Brahminical initiation without really knowing if they are actually Brahmanas or not.
There is no concept of actually, like here, it's so nicely, Srila Thakur is giving a system.
Yeah. Well, Srila Prabhupada on many occasions also indicated how we should introduce this idea of becoming qualified either as a Brahmana, Kshatriya, or Vaishya. And Srila Prabhupada wanted that we establish such type of educational and training system whereby, I mean, specifically, he explained that this is how you can actually introduce. Just like here, this is directly answering the question how to reestablish, how to revive Varnasrama, you know. So Prabhupada, along the same lines, Prabhupada was dealing mainly with people in urban settings. Here, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is dealing with people in the village setting. Yeah. And because it means that actually, from the time of Bhaktivinoda Thakur to Prabhupada's time, major deviation has taken place in society in that, you know, more and more people have left villages, as we know. Prabhupada was dealing with people mostly in cities, isn't it? So Prabhupada was not using the same kind of, let's say, example but the same principle or the same concept basically is there. And if I can just...
if we have to revive these things, then we have to do all these things only if we have our own society, own community. Otherwise...
Well, that is...
Yeah,
what you're saying is very true, that actually for us to revive this, we need our own communities. And Prabhupada also very clearly and very strongly made this point that regardless of what is taking place in the modern world, we should create, you know, in one lecture, Prabhupada, he mentions, we live like this. Whether you like it or not, we live like this. We don't depend on the outside situation. Now our situation is the opposite. We're practically completely dependent on outside situation. But in Vedic culture, that's one of the important features of the Vedic culture, is that in a village setting, you're like a complete independent entity. You know, regardless of what happens outside, you can still continue to grow your food. You can manage and meet your different, you know, necessities of life with the presence of cows, as nicely explained here. This is actually from another book. I just want to read these important quotes by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. This is from Bhaktialoka, another important writing of. But a devotee who desires to properly pass his life still accepts his duties according to Varnasrama. A devotee who desires to properly pass his life still accepts his duties according to Varnasrama, as those duties are favorable to devotional service and counted as part of devotional service. All these activities are no longer called karma. The argument often we hear is that, why you want to remain doing karma, you know, material like this? It's not. Because it's all dovetailed. And then again, to further, with the assistance of Varnashrama Dharma, a person should cultivate bhakti. Very clear. A person is a devotee. It is also necessary to follow the rules of Varnasrama in the cultivation of bhakti. We hear the opposite argument. We're performing bhakti, we don't need Varnasrama, isn't it?
There is a lot of things which are really not clear with so many of our devotees.
Of course, because, yeah, this is the last statement here. Oh, I'm sorry. This second one, the first one was from this Bhaktialoka, and this second statement I read is from the Sri Chaitanya Shikshamrita, chapter 3. And the last which is from the same reference also of Sri Chaitanya Shikshamrita. Though all humans have a right to practice bhakti, those who follow the regulations of varnasrama have a much easier time. Those who follow the regulations of varnasrama have a much easier time. So again, the same message, the same instruction was conveyed by Srila Prabhupada, that it is easier, or to become a Vaishnava by first working within and respecting the rules and regulations of varnasrama. Although we accept and we understand that theoretically bhakti is above varnasrama, but that means pure bhakti. Pure bhakti is above varnasrama. Who is performing pure bhakti? It is not so easy to perform pure bhakti. And in another place,
ego says we perform pure bhakti.
huh?
Our ego says we perform pure bhakti.
That's the problem with our ego.
I'm a pure devotee. You can't say that. It's no problem in the society. Yes.
Yeah. So our devotees are not sufficiently reading Srila Prabhupada's books and books of our acharyas like Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, number one. And secondly, because they're not sufficiently reading, they're not able to discuss the subject matter because they don't know about it, or they know less about it. Or when they do discuss, then it's all hazy and confused because we're not hearing from the right authorities. In South India, we have, I will not mention his name, but we have one devotee who has good background. Actually, he went to a Gurukul school in South India for a good number of years, learning the art of Kalari. Kalari Payatu. Yeah. So we part of what is needed, we speak about Gurukula. Not only do we need to establish Gurukula to train Brahmanas, we also need to establish Gurukula to train Kshatriyas. And there's nothing controversial about this. That's part of the Vedic culture. Kshatriya means leaders, leaders in society, leaders in villages and leaders in at different levels, right up to the top level. The whole verse this morning was speaking, bringing us to the topmost level, Lord Brahma. Hiranyakashipu was so ambitious. He didn't want to become just the president of the country. He wanted, Lord Brahma's post. Yeah, the topmost post of the universe. So, yeah. So you wanted to make some other point, or?
So many. And we are talking about getting Brahmanas. If we are able to become very powerful, good Brahmanas, then also we may not need other Varnas because with our own mind, with our own meditation, we can.
That will only happen. That is only for Satya Yuga.
Yes.
So it will take a little time for Satya Yuga. Yeah. I mean.
Yeah, like yes. It has devotee. Then devotee community. You see, from the cow, so many. One cow is enough. One cow is enough. But we are not in that stage. So we need to have other Varnas also. Protect the cows that are there.
Yeah.
One of the Brahmana he cursed Pachit Maharaj. Within 7 days, it happens. But even if we whole day will go to create this other one?
I mean, it is very, very clearly given to us, clearly instructed by our founder Charya, that we need to introduce Brahminical culture, Kshatriya culture, Vaishya culture, and Shudra culture. All of these are cultures. We've all heard how unless one is somewhere, unless one fits in somewhere, one of these varnas, unless one is part of varnashrama, one is not considered a human being. Human being begins at the level of varnashrama.
Human being begins with the human body. The body dharma we are ignoring.
Yeah.
One point just need to I want to share. Like we are not able to understand the bhakti thing. One Madhuri, Soma Prabhuji she called because she was facing a lot of difficulties in practicing her sadhana programs but she has a child and she has a husband who goes to office. So when she tries to perform her sadhana and other puja and other activities morning time, the child cries and the husband goes. I mean, they have a lot of arguments taking place every day. And one day she said, "Oh, with this, I am not able to do bhakti. I am not able to perform this sadhana program." And she feels that I am not able to do bhakti. So I said, why do you think that only chanting and worshipping the deities is part of bhakti, or this taking care of child is not a bhakti? This is a very much part of the bhakti. Why don't you take it as a sadhana program? Your child is there depending on you. Krishna himself is taking service to the child. Why don't you take it like that? Taking care of husband also is a part of our sadhana program. Why don't you take care of these things? Will otherwise.
Yeah, taking care of children is also bhakti. Prabhupada, as you know, wrote a letter to one of his disciples who was in this kind of situation. She was a mother, had a small child, but she was also involved in deity worship, and she was very attached to doing that. So she was in a dilemma. Prabhupada came to know that her child was being neglected and crying, and so and she was busy performing puja. So Prabhupada told her, looking after your deity worship is to look after your child. Looking after your child, raising it is more important than deity worship.
This message has to be gone through to all the most of our grahasthas because there are a lot of problems going on because of this thing only. We are not taking care of our children, we are not taking care of our husband, other things, and we are thinking this is not sadhana, this is not bhakti.
Yes, this is misunderstanding. This is yeah. Yes.
Points which were read in Seventh Goswami, it was clearly mentioned it's for boys, young boys, like building the character,
Yeah.
deciding the caste and all.
Yes.
So what can be the message for the girls?
Yes, actually, the building of character is also there for the girls. But in the Shastra, it is clearly explained how women are, this is very elaborately explained by grandfather Bhishmadev. Women have their own dharma, what we call Sri Dharma. So therefore, it's a responsibility, especially of parents, of mothers. Mothers are the ones who are meant to train their children, especially their girls, their daughters. So there's a whole, we see by this description that Varna is something that is specifically connected with or directed for the boys. We don't train women in Varna. The system is that when we've heard so many times, it is there in the Shastra as well, that all women should be married. The same instruction is not there for the boys. Some boys can be and are encouraged also to remain single, to remain brahmacharis, for example. We know of instances where young boys, like Shankaracharya, they take sannyas at the age of 8 or 9. So the varna for a young girl is determined, so to speak, when she gets married. She takes the varna of the husband, regardless of what varna she might have been born in, so to speak. So there's a very elaborate training that is there, that is mentioned in the Brahma Samhita, the 64 arts and crafts that Srimati Radharani mastered. And these were, this was the type of education that was especially meant for young girls, and therefore, so therefore there is that natural distinction between male and female, or boys and girls. The boys were specifically trained in their varna, and especially in the context of Gurukula. Gurukula primarily was meant and is meant to train leaders in society. Women are not meant to take up such type of leadership within society. Leadership means you have to interact, and you have to. A leader is one who protects others. By definition and by nature, women are meant to be protected, not to protect others. Of course, in a family, mother will protect the children, you see. But the real protection is actually meant to be given by the male for a number of reasons. So there is, for both scenarios, for both the young boys and the young girls, so much of this has been lost now, and therefore it makes for a difficult situation. It is when we will again come back to a more natural living condition, means village actually, when we will find ourselves living as community in a village, things more easily and more quickly will fall into place as to what duties and responsibilities one is meant to have within society, and within. So that's why this whole deviation in which we find ourselves right now, artificial situation of families being in the cities and taking up occupations which are not natural occupations. So the whole system has become, Prabhupada makes that statement as well in the purport, has become broken. So to reestablish, we need to hear such kind of instructions as given by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Simultaneously, we need to hear those instructions given by our founder Acharya, because some people may say, well, what Bhaktivinoda Thakur spoke about, that was for like 200 years ago. But our Acharyas, they speak things that are in relation to basic principles of dharma. Some slight changes may be there, but the basic essential principles are the same. So it is very much, and I think this is the main instruction here, is that it is therefore the responsibility of devotee leaders that are there, who are there to see how this Brahminical culture, which includes training and education for all the members within the society, including the boys, including the girls, how this is meant to be. Now, interesting point, when Prabhupada was speaking about Varnashram College, the question was asked by Satsvarup Maharaj, is Varnashram College also for women? And Prabhupada replied, no, it is for men, you see. So basically the education for girls, instructions to women are meant to be given actually by primarily three individuals. Instructions to women and protection of women, as everything is there in the Shastra. The parents, father and mother, are the first educators in the family. And then when a young girl grows up, then she will naturally be instructed, should naturally be instructed by her husband. He is the natural protector and also not only physically protecting, but also Narada Muni describes how the husband, he is meant to be seen as the guru for the wife. And then at a later stage, the eldest son within the family takes care of the mother when the father is no longer, or the husband is no longer present. So this is the natural, traditional system, which is extremely difficult to introduce in the kind of scenario or living situation that we have in modern day society. And therefore, again, the need and the importance to understand what the Vedic lifestyle, what the ideal Vedic lifestyle is, which is, again, agrarian or village. Village-based, automatically the presence of cows will be there, and the more natural occupation for individuals automatically also will be there. And as I tried to explain a few minutes ago, the closer we come to what is meant to be our living, the way we live, then all the other components will more easily fall into place. Until then, it's very difficult. So we can close for now, and other discussions can be there. Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Jai Srila Prabhupada ki, Gauda Pimanandi, Hare Krishna.